In our previous discussion, we explored the Platonic notion of the form, considering it to be unchanging, immaterial, and abstract. In this episode, we will begin by considering an important distinction which Plato draws between different kinds of forms, before turning to look at Aristotle's view of the forms. It is interesting to note that Plato draws an important distinction between the form of the good and the other forms. Christopher Shields neatly summarizes this distinction in his writing on ancient philosophy. Necessarily, according to Plato, every form exists. Necessarily, every form is perfect, and so superlatively good. To be good, forms must participate in the form of goodness. Essentially, Plato places the form of the good above the others, and describes it as giving existence to the other forms. This is a view which we will see again with the medieval philosophers, particularly when we look at Boethius. For the time being, however, let us wrap up our discussion of the Platonic forms with a clarification regarding their independent existence. It has already been established that the form of the good gives existence to the other forms. But what then gives existence to the form of the good? Plato describes another form, which he simply refers to as the form of existence. However, Christopher Shields makes an important clarification here, explaining that necessarily every form exists, and the form of the good is explanatorily prior to the other forms. For this reason, the form of the good will be distinct from and even prior to existence. This too is an idea which we will see return with the medieval philosophers. Following Plato, the ancient philosopher Aristotle also discussed the idea of the forms, but in a different way to Plato. He argued that Plato had only focused on the formal cause and missed the importance of the other three. Moreover, Aristotle did not simply bring over Plato's theory of the forms and insert into it his own idea of the formal cause. Instead, he proposed a new theory of reality to better suit his own metaphysical theories. In contrast to Plato, Aristotle did not believe that immaterial forms exist. Rather, he saw form as combined with matter to create the substance out of which material things exist. As Shields explains, at the core of Aristotle's philosophy is his commitment to hylomorphism, where this is simply his commitment to the existence of matter and form as real features of objects. As should be clear, this idea of the form is not entirely dissimilar to what Plato proposed, as Aristotle is describing the form as that which helps explain the existence of an object. However, in Aristotle's account, we see that objects do not participate in the forms so much as they are shaped by them in a very physical and tangible way. The form is the essence of an object. As a point of clarification, Aristotle's view of a formal cause was less encapsulating than Plato's. As a result, he viewed the formal cause as simply the shape or structure of X, or what X is essentially. Clearly, this formal cause could not do everything which Plato attributed to the forms, which is why Aristotle brought in the other three causes. For instance, in this account, it is the material cause, not the formal cause, which explains where an object comes from. While Aristotle certainly did have an influence on the later medieval philosophers, it will likely become clear over the course of the series that Plato's influence was much stronger. However, that is not to say that they completely ignored the arguments which Aristotle made, as we shall see later. Having now briefly explored the ideas of form from ancient philosophy, let us turn to look at a medieval account of the form and understand how it relates to their theology. Before getting too deep into Aquinas' theory of form, and how that relates to the metaphysical nature of God, let us establish a point of clarification. The term form, as employed by the medieval philosophers, is used in a way that is similar to the ancient philosophers, but is somewhat a mix between Plato and Aristotle. The medieval philosophers saw the power of the form in the same way that Plato did, yet also believed that form and matter work together to make the substance of an object. Boethius, for instance, saw the forms working in a top-down manner, in which things with form generate more things with form. Clearly, this is similar to Plato's theory, in which one form gives existence to the other forms. Aquinas' theories also propose some interesting concepts, and raise some important questions, concerning a distinction between things that are productive of goodness and things that are actually good. In our next episode, we shall explore the connection which this has to Plato's theory of the forms, so be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss that. Thanks for watching.